guys, thanks for joining us for another episode of The Pursuit. I'm here with Pastor Rick, and again, we're traveling all around the campus of Salem. So we are currently in my office.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, we're here.
Yeah, Pastor Harper, we wanted to put this out here because this is a hobby you have that you picked up recently. You want to tell our listeners at home what this is about?
Yeah, this is a bonsai tree, and so far my hobby of bonsai has been watering.
Okay, let's get started with an icebreaker.
Yeah.
All right, so as always, we like to get started with an icebreaker. You're with your group, and hopefully by now you know one another, you're really opening up to one another, but these are always a good way of kind of breaking the ice. So here we go. I'm going to reach in, I'm going to grab. Here we go. All right, okay. Here's one. What is your favorite thing about yourself? A little bit of a love me some me time.
Oh, my word. I think for me, I think it's about me being able to laugh at anything.
Yeah.
Including awkward situations.
Right.
Including when someone else is angry at me.
Right.
Laugh in their face.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's my defense mechanism.
That's kind of my favorite thing about you, too. Honestly, about yourself, about you, is the fact that at any given moment I can know he's laughing at something. And what scares me sometimes is I know what it is.
Yeah.
And so I can look over at you and just go, and I know, yeah. For me, it's my hair. No, actually, for me, I think my favorite thing about myself is I don't really take myself too seriously. Yeah. So like where you can laugh at any given situation, I can laugh at myself. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it embarrasses like my kids. Yeah. So mainly like maybe Ella. We might be at the grocery store and I'm the guy who, if I can't find something, I'm going to ask the people who work there.
Right.
And so I'll ask, hey, where's the coffee? And the guy will look up and he'll go, aisle 6. And I'll look up and there it is, big letters, coffee. Mm-hmm. And so from there I'll go, oh, like you expected me to see it? And then smile and laugh and say, I'm sorry, I'm just an idiot. Yeah. And Ella will go, Dad, I don't take myself too serious on that. So I think that's probably what drives other people nuts about me.
But you love about it.
But I love it. Yeah, I love it. And
no, that's good.
Well, take some time right now in your group to really congratulate yourself for being awesome and talk about the things that you like about yourself in that group. Well, this week in Pastor's series, as we begin through the Beatitudes, he goes into the next Beatitude of blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And he described this as a paradox. It just doesn't seem to fit. Right. If you're mourning, how are you able to find comfort? Mm-hmm. And in the sermon, he talked about that we should be mourning the things which God mourns. He mentions here that we should mourn the state of our fallen soul. We should mourn friends, relatives, people we know who don't know Jesus. We should mourn death and the repercussions of death in our world, things like the brokenness of our earth, and anything that really doesn't line up with God's agenda. And we should be mourning over those things. And I think that's really a neat thing. It's something I hadn't thought of before. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we hear that word mourn, we think of we're mourning things that happened to us.
Right. Yeah. And I think, too, part of what he talked about, even growing callous to things, we become so used to seeing destruction, natural disasters, especially with what's going on in the world, recently, with different situations. It seems like because of the internet, we're so exposed to all these things so much, and we've got all this stimuli coming in almost every day of what's going on around the world, where when we hear of these things, it's almost just like just another thing. And so when you hear of natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, whatever, a lot of times we've grown callous to really mourning that. And when have we really grieved that those are real lives that have been lost and people who are affected, lives that are forever changed for these families and people, loved ones. And so, when we mourn in the way that God mourns, it does shift our focus, our emotions, and how we think about those things as well.
Yeah. So we thought we'd take some time right now and break up as a group and talk about the things, what does it look like to mourn the things which God mourns? It may mean something to the effect of we try to experience what we believe God would experience in that. Why would God mourn this natural catastrophe? because he made people in his image. And so what does it look like to mourn the way in which God mourns, or mourn the things for which God mourns?
All right, the second half of that statement, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Talking about that idea of comfort, what does comfort really look like here in this setting? And one of the things Pastor Kivett talked about, he said, comfort comes when we have mourned the brokenness around us, but then see God's redemption at work. And so as you talked about those statements he brings out of, we should be mourning these things, but then we are comforted because then we see how God has worked and how God has supplied and how God has come through in these ways. And that's really what comforts us. Yeah. It's not that our circumstances change or that anything necessarily gets taken care of, but we see what God's already done and how he's supplied, and that comforts us during that mourning.
And I think I've always read these Beatitudes with that idea, like if I mourn, okay, God's going to fix it. Well, that's not really what it's saying. We're being comforted by knowing that God's in control of what I'm mourning about.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd ask you to take some time with your group to discuss this idea of what does it look like to see God working in our situations? Maybe even asking the question, how do you see that happening? How do you see God working for his redemptive purposes in the situations that we are mourning currently in our world today? Well, this week, in lieu of a third question, we thought we'd give you a challenge. And Pastor Kivett, in his sermon, challenged all of us to write down notes, journal the ways in which we see God working through the adverse situations around us. So what we'd like to challenge you for is for this whole series of Beatitudes to take the time to journal all the events that you're seeing in our world today and how you see God working. This could be both international, it could be local, it could be in your own life and family, personal. But we want you to take some time to journal the things down that God is doing in the lives through these adverse situations.
Yeah, we believe that writing that down is a great way of remembering it. We know that we're more likely to remember things as we write it down, but then also to be able to look back on and just see again how God ends up coming through and comforting and doing his redemptive work in those situations.
Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of The Pursuit Abroad. Who knows where we'll be next week? As always, you can watch previous episodes of The Pursuit. See where we've been by clicking the link provided on the screen.
Yeah, go back and watch past sermon videos as well, especially if you've not seen the first sermon from our series in the Beatitudes. And then also subscribe to our channel so you can get those videos updated immediately as soon as we upload them. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.